Hey, everybody, this is That Funny Podcast. We're here with John Ziegler, hilarious comedian, and you have a bit of a history with cancer yourself, and you'll be hosting
Back My Pancre-Ass Off.
Back My Pancre-Ass Off.
August 24th.
Big event. John.
Yeah, Trenton Thunder Stadium or Ballpark.
What's the date?
August 24th.
So, John, tell us, how'd you find this thing, and what excites you about it?
They actually found me.
Okay.
So I guess if you Google comedians pancreatic cancer, I'm probably one of the top. I'd be the top Google search, I guess. I got a very niche. So somehow Jared spoke to somebody in New York City who recommended me. Maybe it was Lance. It might have been Lance.
I don't think it was me, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he came to me, but we talked. We hit it off. He told me his story with his mom, and I told him my story, and this was a great idea. So
it wasn't me, but I would recommend you.
All right, that's good. That'll take.
So let's get a little bit into your own history with pancreatic cancer, your own connection to this, because you have a bit of a. It's more than just another gig, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, this is kind of personal to me. I've been doing different things like this, nothing on this scale, but I've spoke for some foundations. I've done some things at hospitals, but so this is a much bigger thing, doing it at Trenton Thunder Stadium, and he brought in some great comics, and I'm glad to be part of it.
What about the Northwell Cancer Institute? You've had some work with them as well?
I've had too much work with them, unfortunately. They've been wonderful. So that was the hospital when I was diagnosed. I've never been sick in my life. I'm 56 years old. I got diagnosed at 53. But with the exception of a couple of head colds, I'm a pretty healthy person. I don't go to doctors. So I have very little experience with emergency rooms and surgeries. So when I got sick, I just went to the local hospital. I ended up going to its LIJ, which is part of Northwell. They actually transported me there, and that's where I did my chemo, my surgery. I met an amazing surgeon who specializes in pancreatic cancer. So I had what's called the Whipple surgery, which most pancreatic people are pretty familiar with that surgery. Everything was done through Northwell. And then post chemo and me getting healthier, I've been very involved with them. I spoke last year at their, they call it Cancer Survivors Day, which is about 1,500 cancer survivors at the hospital. Yeah, it's a pretty cool event.
Is that out in Glen Oaks?
That's in like Lake Success, New Hyde Park. It's right at LA.
Got it. Yeah.
Long Island Jewish
it's
Hospital.
It's like 40 minutes out from the city?
Yeah, about right.
Cool, yeah. Mm-hmm.
With traffic, 4 hours.
Yeah, right.
So I've been very involved in Northwell, and it's weird for me because when I walk in there now, like I know like the CEO of the hospital, the head of the cancer department, the chair of the board. My wife's like, who the hell are you? Like, you know, all these big shots. But everybody's been so kind to me and supportive. Even the people who run certain foundations that raise millions and millions of dollars for the hospital, they've invited me and my wife to their private events, which is kind of cool for us to sit with the who's who of Long Island. And it's changed my perception because there's some really good people out there. Like, I'm a cynic like a lot of people. I'm always like, I don't know, big pharma, or like I was that guy. I didn't trust them. Yeah. Then I meet some doctors and I'm like, oh, you're pretty amazing people who I can't speak for other people, but my experience with my medical team, I consider them friends. Like, we're not friends. We don't talk on the phone and go to dinner together. But when we talk, it's not a doctor-patient relationship. We laugh. We're honest. They check on me. I never felt like a patient.
Right, they're there in your corner to make sure you get
they felt like they were in my corner from day one. I have very vivid memories of, when this all happens, it happens very quickly. Sure. Yeah, it does. It's not a slow build. It's like, my pee was dark one day, and I'm like, that's a little weird. And I went to urgent care till I get to a hospital, and I thought I had a problem with my gallbladder. That's what they told me. And then within 48 hours, they're like, yeah, I'm sorry, man, you have pancreatic cancer.
I lost my dad to pancreatic cancer, and yeah, it's very quick. It's very fast. Can you detail us your experience? Because, like you said, it happened so quickly. So when did you first know you were diagnosed? Then how did the process of working with doctors, recovery, et cetera? Maybe walk us through that timeline, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So after noticing my pee was dark for about a week, dark like a Guinness, like amber color. And I'm like, I've never run to hospitals. I kind of like, I take vitamins. It's probably from the vitamins. I just ignored it because I felt fine. Right. I was a little bit of a fitness guy. That's what I did for a living before I was a comedian. I ran fitness centers. I owned a gym. I've always been pretty, gym oriented. So I felt strong. I mean, my weight was good. I had no side effects. And I went to urgent care. They sent me to the hospital. Like I said, thought it was my gallbladder. It wasn't until an MRI showed a very small, I think it was 1.2 centimeters, which sounds like nothing, but that 1 centimeter will wreak havoc on your life. It was in my bile duct, which kind of connects to your pancreas. So that's what it was blocking, and it was creating something called bilirubin, which is why my pee was dark. Probably within 48 hours of being in the hospital, I pretty much turned yellow. I got very jaundiced. And that was the blockage in my bile duct. So it's a weird place to get it because the biopsies are very rarely conclusive. They can't tell if it's cancer or not. They only really know after the Whipple surgery, until they actually physically remove it. So you can go through that whole Whipple surgery and the guy can be like, hey, good luck. Yeah, congrats, you don't have cancer.
Wow.
But it's a risk. If you don't do the Whipple surgery and it is cancer, then you probably have, 3 months, 5 months, whatever it is. So I was very fortunate. They did several biopsies that kept coming back inconclusive. But my surgeon was very cool, and he's like, look, 99% chance it's cancer. There's not much else it could be. But there is 1% it's not. So he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I guess I got to do the surgery. Those not very good odds. Turned out it was cancer.
So scary.
Yeah, so it happens so quickly, and as a novice, like, I don't know anything about this stuff. So they sent me for what's called an EUS. It's an endoscopic ultrasound. It's a conclusive camera down your throat. They can take, nothing had spread. So Matt, you went through this with your dad. I don't know when they found it with him. Often the problem with pancreatic cancer, it's late detection, because there's no symptoms. And by the time they find it, there's not much they can do, which is why I think the survival rate to 5 years right now is about 12%.
Jeez.
And I've spoke to my surgeon about that. He goes, those numbers are misleading because 50% of people, so half that they find, it's just too late. It's already metastasized elsewhere. And then is it a candidate for surgery? And, there's always luck and other things involved with it. So they caught mine early. I was a candidate for the surgery, so I did the Whipple surgery, which is a pretty brutal surgery. It's about a 3-month recovery. My incision goes from right below my chest to below my belly button. I was not a typical case. I had a lot of complications. So prior to the Whipple surgery, I got sepsis twice in a month. I kept getting infections. There's a little blockage, that little 1 centimeter thing, like I said, it destroyed.
It's got to be so scary because you're coming from like the health, you're like a health guy, right? And you say you don't see doctors. So this has got to be beyond terrifying, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they sent me to, I found my doctor on accident. I knew somebody who knew somebody at the hospital. It was one of those things. This is the guy you want to see. And they said his name was like Weisser or something like that. So I called the hospital and I said, I'm looking for Dr. Weisser. And they said, Dr. Weiss? And I said, yeah, sure. That sounds about it. And they connected me to this Dr. Weiss, who happens to be like, they brought him in from Johns Hopkins.
Wow, okay.
And they brought him down. They recruited him in to be like the guy. And he was the guy. He was awesome bedside manner, super smart, super confident. And that was my first meeting where he took out a piece of paper and he drew a diagram. He's not an artist. It was a very rudimentary. Here's your pancreas. This is what we're going to do. We're going to remove this, remove that. And I was just kind of nodding my head going, all right, cool, let's do it. I didn't really understand what I was. Sometimes it's good to be delusional or naive. I was like, oh, you can cut it out? Cool, let's do it. And then I had the surgery and I'm like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
This is horrible. It was a tough recovery. And then right after recovery from surgery was chemo. Very little window. As soon as you recover from the surgery, you get you right into chemo, which was 6 months.
So it sounds so tiring, just exhausting, and
it's mentally. It's weird, Lance. When you're in it, I was always a sports guy. It's like if you're having a boxing match, when you're in it, you don't really feel the blows so much. You're in it. It's after.
You're just like.
Yeah, it was after. It was like when chemo was ending, and I started to recover. Then you have time to process all this stuff. So it was probably harder after chemo. It was a challenge. I lost about 35 pounds. I put that all back. I'm in the gym 5 days a week doing the best. I can't do what I used to do because of the surgeries, but I do what I can. Change my diet. Nutrition is very important. Not that I eat well. I'd be a liar.
Yeah.
I'd be a liar. I eat well. I eat better than I did.
Yeah, I guess.
I try to.
Can I ask a quick? Can I interject?
Sure, of course.
I guess my question is, what did it do to your outlook, the experience on both life and then also comedy? How did your comedy and how did it change? I'm sure it did in some ways. So your outlook on life and your outlook on comedy changed through the experience.
I still wrestle with the outlook on life because I think it's human nature. I call it the Rocky syndrome. Like every time we went to see Rocky, we were all going to work out and drink raw eggs and go run. That lasts for like 24 hours. You know, I also call it the 9/11 syndrome. If you remember 9/11, I remember, I'm 56. I remember it very vividly. You go to the supermarket, everybody was so damn nice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what do you got? You go ahead of me. No. People on the road, nobody cut you off. People were letting you merge. I'm like, oh, we're America. We're all united. That took about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Before people were honking at you and telling you to get to the line. I'm like, all right, we're back. I always have to have a reset because as the further I get removed from this, the healthier I get. I wish I was more successful. I wish I made more money. Yeah. I was that guy getting a Netflix special. Like, you get caught up in this nonsense. Yeah. And I have a pretty good life. I got married 10 months ago.
Oh,
I got a great wife. Thanks. We live on, back. I left Long Island for a couple of years, and I wasn't happy. We were in Pennsylvania, and I did not like it. So we have a beautiful place here on Long Island. My family, her family. Like, I have a good life.
Right.
I still struggle being appreciative of it. It's a daily thing where I have to remind myself how damn lucky I am. So for me, the resets are, I still have digestive issues from the surgeries. And every now and then I have a bad day. More than every now and then. But when I have a bad day, it's almost a blessing. Because I go, oh, I remember I felt like this constantly. So when I have a day that I feel good, me sitting around bitching about nonsense, and it's all nonsense. Most of the stuff I bitch about is nonsense, and I know that. But, you get caught up in it. So comedy, I don't know. It changed me for a little bit because I wrote a comedy special from my hospital bed. It's called Getting My Affairs in Order. I put it out on YouTube, and it was just about my experience. And look, if you think you're dying, I'm not really worried about cancel culture. Like, what are you going to do to me?
How much more cancel can you get? Yeah.
Yeah, so how much more cancel can you get? Exactly. So I recorded my special out here on Long Island at Governor's Comedy Club, and it did pretty good. Pretty good. It's relative, but the message was well received. I've gotten really, really positive feedback from people with cancer or people with family member with cancer. I was a little worried that the subject alone was going to make people, ooh. And I've had the opposite. I've had no negative feedback.
It's opened you up into this whole new, I don't want to say fan base, but it's opened you this whole new group of people that maybe you might not have been as aware. I don't want to speak for you, but maybe, it sounds like it opened up a whole new kind of thing. Like I don't really know many people from Arizona, but if I happen to do stuff about Arizona, maybe that would open up a whole Arizona window, I guess. I don't know if that's a great analogy.
I did some podcasts of like people who have a nice following. Like I did like Jim Brewer had me on his podcast. Mm-hmm. Jim Brewer's wife, I'm not airing his dirty laundry. It's public information. His wife struggled with cancer for a long time. And she was like stage 4 and got into some kind of trial and it worked on her. So he watched my, which is pretty cool for me because I knew Jim Brewer this much. I had opened for him a couple of times years ago.
He's been around a long time. He's up there, yeah.
So he had me on his podcast. I thought he was going to have me on and do like a 5-minute segment. And he like watched my special, came with questions. I did like an hour with him. And it was really cool because like I got like 30,000 followers that like within a week from his followers. And they were all cool. And it's opened me up to like a different audience, so to say. But I love, the comedy's my whole life. I mean, it shouldn't have been the first thought in my head when I was diagnosed.
As a comic, it's going to be,
that's what I was like. I'm like, I really wanted to shoot a special. I wanted to write this thing. Like, instead of like, got to call my family, I was right away like comedy.
Of course, that's a true comic. No matter what happens, like, well, I could maybe turn this into something or use it. I have another question, if it's okay.
Sure, of course.
The next question is, let's say, what? Because this could happen to anyone, right? You were a healthy guy. It could happen to myself or Matt or anybody. I go pee in a little while and it's that color, and then I go to the doctor and I have a similar. What words would you give to myself or Matt or anyone who discovers, oh my God, I now have to go through this, and it's scary and it may be tough or not a great outcome, or what? I just find out. Give me some words of encouragement, I guess, if that makes sense.
Um, I'm not a religious
Yeah,
guy. And I've struggled with that because when you think you're dying, and I thought I was dying,
of course.
I legitimately thought I had 6 months to live. I know what pancreatic cancer is. The only people I know who had it are like Steve Jobs.
That joke is real funny. You have, yeah,
Oh yeah, thank
yeah.
you. But that's a real
That's real
conversation with
funny.
my surgeon. Because you know, when I'm like, well, if Alex Trebek and Patrick Swayze and Steve Jobs didn't make it, what are
Yeah,
my
what's the
odds?
hope for anybody? Yeah.
And again, this is coming from a. So I tried to think about religion, but I was kind of lying to myself. Like, you either believe it or
Uh-huh.
don't. Like, I was talking myself into it, but it was more of a backup plan. I'm like, well, what if I'm wrong? I better cover my
Yeah,
ass.
yeah.
So I didn't have that. Some people have faith, and I think that's great. I wish I had it. I don't. For me, I can only speak for myself. I really liked my life, and I doing comedy. This sounds incredibly corny. I did what I wanted to do with my life. I wish I was more successful. I wish more people knew who I was, and that would have been nice. But at least I did what I wanted to do. So I didn't have a lot of regret about my life. So I was able to kind of be at peace with, well, I guess I'll be dead in 6 months, but if I would have spent my life in some cubicle doing some shit I hated, which I did for many years, I think my response would have been quite different. So that's what helped me. I also, you know, you don't know, you can't jump the gun. It's very hard to tell somebody, like, don't get ahead of yourself. How do you not get? I really didn't. I took it like day at a time. Let's see what they have to say. Um, I don't have great advice. I do talk to a lot of people who are sent my way. I have friends. Pancreatic cancer seems to be becoming more prevalent for some reason in younger people. So I get a lot of people give them my number or my Facebook, and they write me, and they've just been diagnosed. And we just talk honestly. I don't sugarcoat it to them. I go, look, this is going to be rough. Chemo for me was the worst part of everything. Chemo was worse than surgery. Worse. Chemo was really bad.
I have a question about, if I may, about the you were mentioning people coming to you. When they come to you, do they find like comfort in humor? Because the whole idea behind Laugh My Pancreas Off is to kind of destigmatize these issues, to give people some relief. It's funny that humor is this incredible healing power. What are your thoughts on some of that?
I think there's something to it. For me, I can only speak for myself. Most of my friends are comics. I have friends I grew up with and stuff like that, and we talk. But those phone calls, family, old friends, how you doing? What do the doctors say? What's the next step? Like, you can only have this conversation so many times in a hospital bed. It's just, you're on a loop telling the same. My comic friends would call me, and Lance knows this. It's done out of love, but they're ruthless.
Of course.
They're ruthless. It's like the roast of John Ziegler
Every
when I'm
time
laying
the
in
phone
intensive
rings.
care.
Yeah.
It made me really laugh, and it made me feel good, and it kept me positive, and I know where it's coming from. My friends who called me up and teased me, it really made me feel good, as opposed to, oh, the surgery, it's going to be a long surgery, but, I'm like, okay, I get it. I don't want to talk about it. So the people who reach out to me, yes, I try to be funny, and we laugh together. It's hard to see yourself as this motivational person. I've never been that guy, but I've become that person just for the fact that I lived. And I have a good attitude. Like, I have been told by people, I never lost my shit about this. I was positive the whole way. I joked about it. I was never down. I was still kind to everybody. And, I was never like short and irritable or angry or why me. So people who have reached out to me, watched my special, a lot of them, and enjoyed it. But they also look at me as, I have a 50-50 prognosis here, but you made it, and I'm going to make it too. You need to see survivors.
Yeah, no, of course. People going ahead of us on different journeys is huge. So speaking of that, I guess, so you're here where you are now. What is the next? What does John Ziegler want to do, life wise, comedic wise, like more impact for cancer stuff? Like what's in your head going for, like? And you say like there's 6 month, 6 month diagnosis. That could be it. Do you carry that with you? Like, hey, I might die tomorrow by a bus, get hit by a bus, or I might, that's the stereotypical hit by. Like, where's the John Ziegler headed in some of the aspirations to help cancer stuff, to help, and maybe it's just I don't know. I don't know. You get my question. I think. I think
for comedy, I'm so obsessed with comedy, but I'm getting older. I've been through it between a pandemic and I got diagnosed with cancer at the tail end of a pandemic. So you kind of piece those together. It's like a 4-year chunk out of my life. And I'm in my 50s. I'm not 25. So I'm aging in dog years at this point. Like comedy is like there's a window of how long do you want to be at the road.
How many years in
the road
at this point?
16 and a half. I started at 40.
Mm-hmm.
Started after my 40th birthday. And I loved every minute of it. I have no regrets with comedy. And I've met some really great people. Like I said, my closest friends, some of my best memories. It's changed me as a person doing comedy because it gives you there's a lot of rejection. And you get thicker skin. And it's just made me more confident. It's made me more assertive. When I started comedy at 40, I couldn't do it. I was the kid who couldn't do a book report in high school. I was petrified. My first year and a half of comedy, I'm like, why do I do this? I feel like I'm going to throw up every day. Why do I keep coming back? And you do get through it. It's like jumping off the high board. You do it enough, it just becomes second nature. People ask me today, they're like, you get nervous doing comedy? I go, feel nothing. I enjoy it, but I'm never nervous. Now, maybe if I was getting an HBO special, I'd be nervous. But to go do an Elks Lodge.
What if those Elks Lodge people don't like you? The devastation. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know what the future holds for me with comedy. I try not to overthink it because you can get down.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very easy to get down. The road for me, I'm not Nate Bargatze. I'm not going to do the Prudential Center. I'm going to go do a comedy club for a weekend and stay at a Ramada Inn. It's like, how much longer do I want to do that? I never want to not love what I do because I don't want to taint comedy.
Sure.
It's like being in a relationship that you had a great 20 years, but the love is gone. There's a point where you need to move on. I'm not there yet, but I am preparing for that.
You think you're going to hit it at some point?
I probably won't. I just submitted for America's Got Talent. I did last year, and I had 3 auditions.
That's 3 rounds, yeah.
Yeah, so they had me. I didn't make the show, but I had 3 auditions to make the show. They love it. They love a backstory on that show.
I think I've made it to 2 rounds.
Okay, yeah. So, what was your backstory? I had the whole cancer thing going, and I couldn't get on. I really played that up big time.
I don't even remember.
Just look at this guy. That's the backstory.
I think that's why I only made 2 rounds. One of the reasons. Yeah, they were like, it's decently funny. The story's not that interesting. Well,
They care about that. For the third, this is a true story. For the third audition, they did it on Zoom. They requested I do a Zoom one, and I shaved my head. My hair had all grown back.
And you shaved for the audition.
I shaved my head till I cancered it up again for the audition.
Yeah, no. The things we do to try and I get it.
Yeah, I have no shame about it. I do have a reset though, where I have to constantly remind myself that I'm lucky to be alive. I read something on Instagram. I follow a lot of people who are survivors. They're very motivational to me. And one lady put up something that said, people think cancer ends when chemo ends. A lot of people say that's it. Like, well, oh, you beat cancer, you beat pancreatic. I didn't mean anything. I just finished chemo 6 months ago. I have a long road ahead of me. So this part is very hard because you do good for a couple of months and you enjoy your life. And then the scans are lingering. I do scans every 3 months. And you hold your breath.
Of course.
Because your life can change again on a dime. Because if my cancer's back, I'm probably not going to have any symptoms right now. They're just going to go, we see something in your liver or your pancreas, and you're like, God damn it. So you hold your breath going into those scans. And people don't understand, there's a mental component to this. The window is 5 years. That's the number they're really looking for you to hit. This is the first time. I was diagnosed 3 years ago. They're stretching out the length of time between my scans.
All right.
So this is going to be 4.5 months. My next one will be in September. Before that, it was every 3 months. And that's the most stressful part for me. And I play it off pretty cool. I got my scans tomorrow, but I don't sleep good the night before.
Of course. How could you?
And I get my results. Usually the results can take a week.
Oh, my God. So you're just waiting on that week.
Yeah, I tend to get them expedited a little. They seem to like me down there. They seem to like me. So I tend to get my results. The worst thing is they come into you get them in the portal.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
And you don't know what
a
looking
portal.
at?
I look, but I don't know what the hell I'm reading.
Exactly, yeah.
So you can start to be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then your doctor calls you and you're like, oh, that's nothing. Don't worry about that.
I just had a physical for the first time in 5 years, and that was very similar. Yeah, I had a couple things that were not great, and I was like, "What's happening?" And then they were like, "Here, I'll just,
Yeah.
yeah."
Yeah, so I've learned to read the portal. It has all this medical description, this long. But if you scroll all the way right to the bottom, there's a little synopsis
Sure.
at the bottom that's one line.
Sure.
It'll just say like, no signs of cancer reoccurrence.
Yeah.
That's all. So now I just go right to the bottom and it says no signs. I go, that's all I care about. Everything else I can deal with.
Do you get big laughs at the clinic from the doctors and staff? Do you crush?
They
Do you
seem to
crush those
like
sets?
me. They crush those sets. The nurses like me. Actually, my oncologist, her name's Dr. Levy, who's over at across from. It's part of Northwell. It's now called Zuckerberg, is what the name of the place is, and she's great. And she said to me last time I was kind of down. I was having side effects from this, and it gave me what's called esophagitis. It's all side effects from surgery. So I was like bile coming up in my throat, waking me up at night, stomach. It came on kind of out of nowhere. And she said, "You're always funny and upbeat. Like this isn't you." So it was the first time she saw me. Like, look, I'm human. I have my moments. You get tired of being sick.
Man.
But I know I know a lot of other pancreatic cancer survivors, post-Whipple people like me, and they take a lot more medicine than me. They have a lot more dietary restrictions. Like, I'm very fortunate. So all these questions about perspective and life and comedy, yes, I get caught up in all the nonsense that we all do. You know, I wish I had a nicer car. Who cares? And then I have a reset where I remind myself, like, just being able to eat food. I love food. It's a problem. Like, Matt, if you saw me eat, I'm 192. I should be 300 pounds easily. I eat like a shark, and I love it. I really enjoy going to restaurants and stuff. But there was about a year where I can barely digest.
Oh my gosh.
And I hate it. Eating was like, you have to eat to live. And I wanted calories because I was very skinny. So I was just like pancakes at night, pasta, very caloric, not very healthy things.
Did they have you on the insurers?
I was drinking that stuff by the case, and there was like some are like liquidy, some are more like a shake. I was trying different types, but I needed nutrients and vitamins, and it's all I can really hold. So yes, I'm very familiar with Ensure. That was more like when I was in the hospital. Out of the hospital, I was getting the smoothies that are probably not good for you, like peanut butter and chocolate syrup. I was getting those smoothies. But I like to eat, and I sometimes have to remind myself, like, when I'm just having like a bacon, egg, and cheese, I love that in the morning. I get my iced coffee, and I go, I couldn't even do this.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking about like all the the things I don't have instead of the things I have. So, and I think that was always my personality. So I'm working very hard. I read a lot now, and I'm reading more like motivational things, and I'm never going to be Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not looking to be that motivational guy, but your mindset. For me, it's doing things like this Laugh Your Pancreas, like be able to do this. And I don't know who's going to be in the audience. There'll be a few thousand people there, and I don't know how many of them are just there to see a comedy show or how many are connected to pancreatic cancer. But that's my reset for me, is I get to meet those people, and it feels really good because, like I said, I was a cynic going into this, and I met incredible people who just do, they just do for others.
John, you're the host for the Laugh My Pancre-Ass Off event happening August 24th at the Trenton Thunder Ballpark. So as the host of the event, you're kind of the ringleader for this. People who are attending, what are you hoping that people will get out of this?
I was saying earlier, I don't know who's going to be attending. I don't know if they're all going to be people there who are affected by cancer, just people there to see a comedy show. We talked about this earlier. I do think laughter is huge. It helped me. Even my surgeon, who's not a holistic doctor, he's a medical doctor, was like, your attitude's going to go a long way. It really matters to be positive. I think it helped me. People ask me all the time, why did I live? What do you think it was? I don't have any magic answer. It's a little bit of luck, but I think my attitude had a lot to do with it. I do. So when I do this, it's keeping people laughing, keeping them upbeat, seeing that people do beat this. Because I know when I was diagnosed, I heard pancreatic cancer and thought it's a death sentence. And it's not. I mean, it's not a good thing. I don't wish it on anybody, but you can beat this. I mean, I'm living proof, and I've met 100 people who are like me. So I think that's what I would like to get to people. If you are sick or your family member's sick and you're thinking this is it, It's not necessarily true. People do get better from it. They've made long strides in where they're going. So raising money for it's great. I do have an affiliation to PanCan, which I think is involved with this event. I met the lady who founded it. She's out in California. She's awesome. I did her PanCan walk, where they raised millions of dollars. Like, I've met amazing people.
Where can we find more about you? Can you tell us your YouTube special again? Anything else? Upcoming shows, things we can find more information on you.
Well, my big upcoming show is I'm going to be at the Trenton Thunder Stadium on August 24th. That's my big one. And I'll be August 3rd. I'll be in Doylestown at a club called the Comedy Cabaret. I'll be headlining there, co-headlining with a woman, Missy Hall, who also a recent cancer survivor. So it's an all cancer show. I just wrote her and I go, is this coincidence that we're booked together? So I'll be there. My website's just johnzieglercomedy.com. My special's up there. I have a YouTube page, so I have to go to my YouTube page and subscribe. Everything's John Ziegler Comedy. That's it. I'm taking it day at a time, kind of. I am looking forward to this event. I have family and things will be coming. I have a lot of family in Pennsylvania, my wife's side. They'll probably be coming down because it's pretty close. And I hope it's a great night.
I think it's gonna be fun. Yeah, you obviously know the lineup and it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a fun time.